Welcome back to Worth Making the News. The patch recently dropped, and I happen to have already finished a video on it. Totally not about the dev server, totally not just a late video. Definitely just finished it in the last few hours. So hit that subscribe button. There's a lot of things to cover that definitely weren't just things on the dev server. Trust me, it's totally relevant still. First off, for Japan, they got the Type 16 wheelie tank thing. What are those called? It's a very fast vehicle and can actually hit 100 kilometers an hour, although you have to be going downhill on pavement. However, you may have guessed, it has no armor. Well, for the most part, it has no armor. The sides are almost completely unarmored. Or at least that was how it is on the dev server, with the area around the wheels being about, I think it was 15 millimeters of rolled modulus armor. However, the front is actually pretty well protected against heat. It's a big old block of composite that can block about 350 millimeters of heat penetration. And right after that is two fuel tanks, which will eat up most of the shrapnel from the heat shell that does get through. Although you'll catch on fire, because sure. The firepower this thing is taken with it is essentially the same gun as the Type 74. At least it has all the same ammunition on the dev server it was, which includes the Type 93 shell, which has some really good penetration and will help this thing out a lot at its 9.3 battle rating. Speaking of Type 73 ammunition, the gun on the Type 73, its stabilizer was made not trash, so that's good to hear. Only less detail about the thing I could say is that it's right after Hori on the tank destroyer line in the Japanese tree. Also coming to the Japanese tree, a surprise to us all, was a AH-1S, a Japanese copy of the AH-1F. With all the same loadouts and mostly the same modules, for some reason it was missing the IRCM. It was also labeled 10.0 as its battle rating. It is the dev server, so I'm expecting some of this stuff to change. Now, the real appeal of this helicopter isn't just to have a helicopter in the Japanese tree to help you out your other vehicles, is that it has a anime skin, kind of. It's not actually based off any anime or anything. It was from a promotional event of the Japanese Self-Defense Force. It's technically not an anime skin, but it's the same idea. However, this one is indeed historically accurate. As historically accurate as any parade skin. Now, if you are looking for a Japanese helicopter and you hate anime, don't worry too much, there is a regular skin for it. But this opens up some interesting questions, like this, for example, is going to be a pack premium that you have to buy in the Gadget store that will launch with the patch. So can we expect more Japanese helicopters in later patches? Or is it going to be like the Italian tanks where they get some premiums and then they gotta wait an entire year for them to get the rest of the tree? The other question is, can we expect more weeb skins? If I recall correctly, of this promotional event, there was 4 helicopters dressed up with their pilots as anime characters. It also reminds me, there's some pretty cool looking hind skins out there that I'd also kind of like to see in game. New things for Germany, they got the Fla Rock Paz 1. I don't know what its unabbreviated name is, and I probably wouldn't be able to pronounce it. But essentially it's a German Roland 1, has the same missiles, has the same missile system, radar lock-on and all that. It's just on a Martyr chassis. By the way, guys, when are we going to get the Martyr anyways? We got the other thing that's on a Martyr chassis, and now this. Anyway, the missiles have actually been buffed since the last dev server, and now pack much more of a punch, being able to one-shot a T-64B. However, the reload animation still has a few bugs, which can get annoying. I'm hoping they're going to iron that all out before the patch goes live. Russia received the Yak-3U, which is a Yak-3 with a radial engine of the same variants from the LA-11. I don't think it's the same exact model, but same line. Generally, it's a really good aircraft at 5.7. Now, I'm going to be optimistic and say it will be able to hold up to the Allied superprops. However, a noticeable downside is, like all Yak-3s, it does not have much ammo, especially with a very fast fire rate. So you'll probably run out of ammo by the third time you start shooting at the third guy. However, a lot of aircraft's abilities only comes out in combat, and you can't really get actual combat in the dev server because you keep on facing bots, or you get up-tiered and murdered by jets, or you don't even get in a game at all. So we have to wait till the live server to really see how well this thing does. But generally, I do think it's going to be a good aircraft. Italy was not left out. Oh boy, were they not left out. But more on that later. First off, we're going to talk about the Regina 2002 early that was added. This did pop up in the files last week. However, oddly enough, the design on the tail is gone, so maybe that's a skin that you can buy later. Maybe there is going to be some sort of event vehicle. But this plane is as Reginas go. Not very good guns. Can move pretty alright. If it had some cannons, it would be a much better bird, but it doesn't. This is what we got. And that's generally all the new vehicles. Yeah, not too many, but still some good ones. However, that's not all that was changed, because of course a lot of things change. First off, let's talk about the vehicles that were new that got changed from last dev server to this one. The Leclerc S1 has armor fixed. Now it's not complete garbage. However, unfortunately, it's not the greatest thing ever. The front plate is kind of the same, around a little over 500 on the front plate smack on, but the angled parts of the upper and lower offer very little protection and could easily have APFSDS slide right through. The turret totally changed. The cheeks can go from 800 to 600. Very strong punch on the tank. However, unfortunately, the gun mantlet, which is very large and square, only protects at times from 200 to I think 85 against APFSDS. Now against heat it did a little bit more, but still, most of the time if you get shot there, your gun's going out. The gun does absorb most shrapnel and might save your crew. However, there is still a good chance of losing at least one of them. As for the gun, it got changed too. It now has a 6-second reload opposed to its old 5. It doesn't really change that much. Apparently, historically, it either had a 5-second reload if you were standing still and a 10-second reload if you were on the move. I'm not sure how that could be put into place. It'd be kind of interesting because you have to stop to have the fast fire rate. Having altering fire rates depending on situation of the tank pretty nice instead of just a stock one for everything, although it might fudge the game stats a little bit. But regardless of that, high penetrating shell with a 6-second reload is really good for a tank. And I know what you're thinking, wait a minute, I thought it had the highest penetration game, not just a high. Well, that's where we're getting to our next tank. The Ariete now has a 625mm penetrating cell at 10 meters, which is not only the highest, but is leagues higher than a lot of other shells in game, which can only get a little bit over 400. Upon that, the Ariete also had its armor increased, no longer just being the same as the pre-series. It actually has some pretty decent armor. It can block most shells in the game. I think somewhere around 500. I don't remember exactly. However, lower front plate still only has spaced armor and only very small amount, so that's a very big weak spot. But generally, it's a pretty good tank, especially with that shell. Like, that shell is going to be carrying this tank a whole lot. The 82 Skyshark got a fat nerf. However, it was extremely OP last time, so it kind of needed that nerf. It's not going to reach 800 easily anymore. It can easily reach 500, but you're probably going to have to climb a lot and dive a little to reach that 800. And it's also now 6.7, which means it's going to be fighting jets. 7.7 jets, which I think is the biggest part of that nerf. It also lost its 2,500 pound bomb payload, which it never historically carried, so of course. But it's kind of disappointing because, it's hilarious seeing it carry 2,500 pound bombs. Overall, though, I'm going to say it's going to be an alright plane at release. At the very least, you'll be able to rush bases. The Stormer HVM got quite a few changes. The star streaks were heavily improved. Now the 3 prongs don't instantly leave the initial rocket, allowing the thing to be aimed a whole lot easier. However, you still need to actually hit the target to actually deal any damage, which can be a bit of an issue if the plane is flying really close to you or making rapid movements. Though it's a bit made up for, as it also now has a really fast fire rate and reload with a lot of rockets too. It'll get the job done for sure, but I feel like the other mobile SAMs are going to be much more efficient. And the Hunter F6, not much of it changed. The missiles are still marked only having a 5G limit. However, it did receive some cool new camos, including this really nice black one. Some other changes that happened with gameplay. ESS now comes out of the exhaust of whatever tank is expelling it. It looks pretty cool. That's about it. The HO 103 and 104s got AP and HE into their belts. Not every belt. I think the tracers don't have them, but it's nice to see those. The guns will actually do some damage now, maybe. Hopefully. Like ATGMs and torpedoes, bombs now have hitboxes, so you can snipe out those 5,000 kilogram bombs and kill the PEB 8 that dropped it if you're a good shot, I guess. Radar got nerfed. Well, now it's harder to detect things that are near the ground, or lock onto them at least. And now there's the clutter in the radar, so if you're looking at the ground, there'll be a bunch of green everywhere. Probably won't obstruct you too much, and it looks pretty neat. The Skyhawks got 30 AP rockets, which are really good at not killing tanks. However, they do seem pretty good at killing the generic ground targets you find in air battles, so they'll be good if, say, a bomber decides to go fly to the sky. You can easily clean up the map and win the game. But if you're going to take it to a tank battle, stick with the RP3s. The F6F5N got lock-on radar and tracking. The lock-on range is really small, but it can be done. Generally, I find the F6F5N a really good plane, so it with radar is going to be a great plane. And the final gameplay change is the big one, where they changed up the spawn point cost. The thing that I noticed first was the helicopters now cost less to spawn in by 15 to 20%, regardless of ATGMs. Like, you can actually now spawn in the beginning of the game with a helicopter with ATGMs, which I don't like because it's going to lead to spawn sniping with the helicopters, which was going to be really annoying. I guess the counter argument is that helicopters are kind of useless now that everyone has mobile SAMs. So this will give them some sort of use, hopefully. Situations like these are why I don't play top tier anymore. It kind of just turns into the new thing that everyone has to pay to get real quick. Destroys the old thing and everything else. And next thing you know, Gaijin's gonna add some other new thing that everyone gets to pay to get into that completely destroys mobile SAMs. Reasons like that is why we call low tier fun tier. I didn't see this written down anywhere, but it feels kind of like they changed a lot in how naval combat works. As I found it really hard to actually do any damage to ships with HE or AP in the dev server. What I'm thinking what they're doing here is they're making ships essentially what ships were. Just big old chunks of steel in the ocean that you can throw a lot of stuff at them and they don't just fall apart like, say, an airplane. But they are making it so you sink a whole lot faster, so you have to manage that sinking. And of course, losing crew makes it harder to stop the sinking and repair and all that, which some of y'all might not like. But personally, this is kind of what I've been hoping for to see in Naval, a change to the way the gameplay is played, because right now it's just health bars. Like, the crew counts as a health bar and you have to shoot each segment to dwindle down that health bar, and sometimes there's like 3 crew, but you know, all guns shoot on the boat even though there's like 6 guns. So it'll be nice to see how this turns out. Hey, if it's trash, we can always turn it back. Now, that was going to be just about everything for the patch. There's a few things I skipped over, like the thermobaric missiles that the Stormer S got, but those things are boring. Apparently I have proximity fuses, but I couldn't find any aircraft to test them against. So I was going to end it and do my usual outro. However, my Discord started talking about this one Datamine that appeared on the Reddit, and it kind of unfortunately contradicts some of the things I was putting out here. So I'll just quickly go over exactly what this little Datamine is saying. So the AT-ATs went from a spag to a tank destroyer. That's the first line of this Datamine, and it's already stupid. Now, ADATS stands for Air Defense Anti-Tank System. So I guess you could technically classify it as a tank destroyer, but really it's for killing aircraft. That's what the first part is, at least, air defense. But the reason why this is a big deal is because tank destroyers require more spawn points than spags. So if this thing's classified as a tank destroyer, and let's say the Tunguska is not, it's going to be cheaper to spawn the Tunguska, and you'll see more of them than you will of AT-ATs. These are the reasons why people keep on saying Russian bias, Gaijin. I really wish you'd stop so I could say it's all BS, but come on. Like, come on, what are you doing? I really wonder if it's still at the end of the spag line. Hopefully it's just a glitch or something, or, I don't know, they're messing with things. It's dev server, so it's a little early to criticize, I guess. But also on the AT-ATs, its rate of fire for its 25mm cannon went up from 200 rounds per minute to 500. The AM-1 went from 5.3 to 5.7, which is, that's kind of unfortunate. The GAC-3U got a heavy nerf, having its battle rating increase from 5.7 to 6.3. Its research cost went up from 71,000 to 78,000. Its purchase cost went up from 260,000 to 310,000, and its crew train cost went from 74,000 to 90,000. The Hunter F6 went from 9.3 to 9.7. Strum S got a new missile, the 9M22 something something. I don't know, I can't read that. TV missile. The dome structure steel on the Leclerc turret has been changed to rolled homage armor, which should help out, but I doubt it's very thick. The Leclerc reverse gear ratio has been changed. I don't know what that means. The Fla Rack Paz Roland fire on the move is now impossible, unfortunately. That was a really good bonus for that vehicle. The Leopard 2A4 and 2A5 reverse gear ratio has been changed. I have no idea what that means. Hopefully it's a buff. The Type 16 turret traverse went from 22.8 degrees per second to 30 degrees per second. The CR1 Mark III side skirt armor went from ERA to NERA, now having 15 millimeters of kinetic protection and 255 millimeters of chemical protection. Something happened to the Stormer. I don't understand what this means. Hopefully it's like it says line added, so I don't know. This one really is getting to me. The Leo 2A5 Trillium 240mm rolled homogeneous armor is now 240 millimeters of structural steel. Why on earth would any nation add 240 millimeters of structural steel to their main battle tank? What kind of thinking would go through that? Let's add a whole lot of structural steel. There's a big old chunk of structural steel to weigh down our tank. Like, what? This isn't the 40s anymore where they have to make compromises because they're being bombed. I don't know. I'm pretty sure this is a bug. Maybe they're going to change it to, I don't know, be different. There was some sort of change to the M1's turret armor. I'm thinking it's a buff. I'm hoping it's a buff. Those turrets are pretty weak. Some other random line added for, I believe, what is the Stormer S. The T-80U 20mm rolled homogeneous armor on the hull now has an effective thickness of 30, so no more crazy angles for that. The 20mm T-31 cannon fire rate is now 750. One Russian missile got a buff, and one Russian missile seemed to got a nerf. The ADX explosive filler was changed to composite B, 6 kilograms, from 12 kilograms of AIX2. I'm not sure if that's a buff or a nerf, because it's all about TNT equivalent. The Roland 1 and Roland 3 missile fillers, those were unfortunately heavily nerfed. I really hope they can still one-shot T-64s, but I have my doubts. Oh, and something I forgot before we quit. A dude by the name of Solid49 was data mining and happened to stumble upon the fact that the anti-ship missiles that can be attached to the PG-02, not only is the model able to be attached, but it also happens to have a damage model, or X-ray, which just goes to show how serious Gaijin is about adding these anti-ship missiles. I'm telling you, they're gonna be added. I wouldn't be surprised if they were the thing that came at Gamescom, because we always get things at Gamescom. I think that's just about everything I want to cover this week. So, if you have any comments, concerns, or missed anything you find important, you can keep up down below or on my Discord. If you've liked this video, hit the like button. If you didn't like the video, don't hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. I make War Thunder weekly news videos every weekend. I make random videos throughout the week. I stream on Saturdays, and I like to try to stream more on Twitch with a dev server and all that kind of stuff. I've been unfortunately forgetting to. So follow me there, hit that subscribe button, and hit the bell icon to be notified anytime I upload a thing. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great bonus news. Today it's a little strange. So apparently the word weeb is now banned on the warthunder.live page, and I assume the forums as well. I find this extremely funny because the word weeb, it is an insult. Some people do just randomly throw it at any Asian person, so I guess you could say it's racial in some way, but I think that's more of ignorance than the actual definition of the word. And you'll also find most weebs, like myself, call themselves weebs. It's some sort of self-deprecating humor. So this move makes me feel like Gaijin, or at least whoever made this ruling, is extremely out of touch. Fun fact, actually, the word Gaijin in Japanese means foreigner, though it's typically used as an insult. I guess it's time to change the company name. By the way, yes, I did steal that joke from Koala.